Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode. This is not a way I see it. These are just basically these are fragments of my understanding of learning how to learn. Each day I am focusing on different courses that are online, places like Coursera, EDX. There's another course that's available like on Udemy, where people are talking about learning how to learn new things. And because there are just so many things available for people to learn, so many courses you can buy, these courses are actually for free. I'm actually going ahead and putting some effort into breaking it down for not only for you, but for myself. And today's course, I was working on learning how to learn, and it's really fascinating. Barbara Oakley and Dr. Terence Sevenowski, they're two of the instructors of the course, and a lot of the things they talk about I've heard in various other situations, like different books and tutorials such as spaced repetition. Sleeping takes precedence in you learning, and understanding how the prefrontal cortex works. It pretty much plays a huge role in you learning how to learn. So what I wanted to talk about was some of the things that I actually didn't know, which was understanding on how recall and the illusions of competency can be a big can also play a big role in, for instance, not learning enough or learning more. So recall, for instance, is basically a term of where you try to work on something new using the books or listening to a teacher, and then you quickly try to test yourself and retesting, you're giving yourself little mini tests. In the actual course on Coursera, you'll actually see that there are some people will actually review your questions and see what their feedback is, whether your information is good or not. That's one thing I actually like. That was great. It actually allows for me to check someone else's work and see my own work to be checked on, and vice versa. That's like peer review. And that's a big thing in the academic society, where people publish journals and you're reviewed by your peers. Even people go to court, they have you have like a plaintiff and you have a defendant, and then you have like a trial, and you have like people defending that you're supposed to be like your peers. So it's really interesting, especially when it comes down to like learning like blockchain, where you will create a transaction and then that transaction is reviewed by your peers, and based on that review, it's actually added to the blockchain, and the whole entire blockchain is considered true. Very powerful stuff if you listen to it from if you abstract that. But now I'm going off track, so I'm going to come back. So going ahead and talking about recall. Recall helps with strengthening the actual original chunk that you're trying to learn. It also helps with transfer, meaning that once you learn a particular chunk and you can recall it very easily, like what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to recall it from my mind. I just finished working on it. So now I think I spent like 15-20 minutes looking at something on YouTube, and then I just did this little video. So now I actually remember what I was actually trying to do. I know now that I'm using chunking and recalling to understand something, and I actually test myself. For instance, understanding the term einstellung, which is kind of like this idea of avoiding overlearning. So meaning that where you think that you're trying to learn something, or you don't necessarily learn it because you keep doing the same exact thing, because you're so good at one particular part of a particular thing. For instance, there was a picture where there was a man that was kind of like trying to use his car to go through some muddy roads. Normally that the car didn't look like it made it through. It got stuck, and because the person probably is a good driver, he drives everywhere, they think they could just drive through everything. And you might not want to use that. If I'm looking at it from my idea, if you might want to have some snow tires, or you might want to find another road. or you may want to ask questions on people who are there. And we have opportunities to use that particular mindset when it comes down to learning how to learn. When you have a Google application, when you have Google right now, you have the internet. If you want to learn something new, you can start Googling it. But you don't want to stop there. You want to go and ask people who are also proficient or experts in that field. You might want to read something. You might want to go ahead and talk to somebody who's proficient, who's actually going into it too. It's like somebody is like your peers as well. These things helps reinforce the learning process over as a whole. So einstellung pretty much talks about trying to not use the same process that you've used before in one discipline for the other, because sometimes you might have to change that discipline a little bit in order to get things done. Barbara Oakley also talked about that if you go ahead and you have if you have somebody that had like one discipline, they move to another discipline, that person who had the newer discipline is usually more capable of actually coming up with ideas rather than the people that is not being able to do that. And this is because the fact that that person is more willing to keep changing their thought process and being creative while they're moving over. If you play Magic the Gathering, right off topic, but it just popped in my head, there's a character called Dovin, and he's like a planeswalker, and he's supposed to be like a very smart, intelligent being. And one thing he says as you're using some of the spells, he says, when you're trying to do something new, when you're trying to be creative, defy convention. And that really means that you don't always want to do things always the same exact way. You always want to learn something new. And going back to what Barbara Oakley said, she said that a lot of older scientific disciplines have been deprecated because of the fact that people have learned something else that has basically that has like overruled it in the particular sense of learning how to learn. So we're always doing this in our lives, and every single one of us is capable of doing this. And I basically tell you guys to take a look at the actual course on Coursera. I'm just trying to see if I can put the link up, but if you don't want to, you could just go to Open Source Society, OSSU, on GitHub, and you can see the links on in the GitHub link. I'll try to see if I could put them up here if I can, and then I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.